Hello everyone, my name is Alex.
And I'm Jay.
And welcome to our E2 IELTS Task of the Week.
Cool bananas. What are we going to do today, Alex?
Well, we've done part 1 speaking, we did part 2 speaking, so today it is part 3 IELTS speaking.
All right, rock and roll. And more specifically, what are we going to do?
It's pretty short and sweet. Today we're going to do an overview. I'll tell you all about part 3. We will look at the question types and a few strategies, and then we're going to do some questions.
Okay, cool. Now, they going to do some questions too?
Yeah.
We're going to do some?
Me, and you.
Ha 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 ha. Very good. All right, cool bananas. Let's get started and look at IELTS speaking part 3. So, what happens in part 3 of this test?
Well, this generally takes 4 to 5 minutes. And you remember you've done a part 2 by this stage, a 2-minute talk. And the questions in part 3 are connected to that part 2 talk.
Okay. I remember that I spoke about a movie that I enjoyed. I reckon I talked about Shawshank Redemption and Free Solo. So they're going to ask me lots of questions about Free Solo, who was the main actor.
No. These questions now are less about you, and they become more abstract and broader and a bit deeper. So they're not going to ask you about the director or the actors. They're going to ask you maybe about the movie industry or about celebrities or about the arts. Like, do you think the government should invest more in the arts? Something like that.
Okay, so it becomes quite sort of philosophical, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can do.
Right.
And in this part of the test also, the examiner can go off script. So part 1 and 2, they're very closely following a script. And in part 3, they're free to adjust the questions, add questions, take questions out. So if you're a really strong candidate, they're going to ask you some really challenging questions.
I remember when I did one of the IELTS tests I did, the examiner, my task card was about happiness, and she actually was looking for this particular task card and goes, oh, I do this one. And then she asked me all these like really abstract, interesting questions about the nature of happiness and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. So if you were not such a strong candidate, those questions would be a little bit simpler, like what things make children happy, for instance, something like that.
Okay, so they can increase and decrease the difficulty according to who they're speaking to.
Yeah. So it's quite flexible, much more flexible than part 1 and part 2.
Okay.
More of a discussion.
Cool. All right. So what are the types of questions that they're going to ask us?
Lots of them, but a few that spring to mind. They'll ask you your opinion. For example, how important is job satisfaction? Or do you think children today are more badly behaved than those in the past? They might ask you to compare something.
Okay.
So things like, do young people and older people prefer different types of art? Do men and women have different attitudes to money? And they'll usually finish with a question that asks you to predict something, talk about the future. Like, will it be possible to prevent environmental damage in the future? Do you think people will live on another planet one day?
So I imagine with these prediction questions, you're going to have to use some verb tenses like going to and will, and some modals like could and would and should.
Yeah, exactly. I doubt, it's inevitable, some interesting language like that.
Okay, that's cool. Nice.
There's lots of other types of questions. There are just 3 of them.
Okay. All right, so I believe some of our wonderful YouTube subscribers had some questions, and our E2 language students. Perhaps let's go through these. So, Alex, what if I don't know anything about the topic? For example, let's say the examiner says to me something like, okay, now I'm going to ask you a specific question about particle physics.
The good news is they'll never ask you anything like that. They're not going to ask you about trivia type things. Who's the president of blah, blah land, or anything specific about maths, thank goodness, or physics. All of the questions are about things that you know about. You don't need specialist knowledge. So we do hear this a lot. What if I don't know about the question? And same for writing. But you do know about the question, and you can always answer, even if you say, I don't know anything about that actually, but that's still language. That is what the test is. It really doesn't matter how much you know or don't know about a particular issue.
Okay, it feels to me that with these types of questions they ask you in part 3 that you can have quite simple answers or you can have very complex answers. It's sort of up to you.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of them was about advertising. I think the thing I spoke about was a product or something. And then the part 3 questions are about, how do you feel about advertising? What are the implications of advertising? So I could have answered quite simply, or as I tried to do, and as you should do, is try to answer in a more sophisticated way.
Yeah, and you'll probably end up doing a combination. So they might have started by asking, what are some ways that advertisers attract customers? So then you're sort of listing things, billboards, and they use jingles and gimmicks and blah, blah, blah. And then it can become a bit more abstract, a bit more about them, the motivation of consumers or the impact of consumerism, those type of things.
Okay.
So you'll probably do a mixture of things.
Okay, cool. But I'll broadly know about all the topics.
Yes.
Great. Okay, another question. What if I don't understand the question? As in, I don't understand what the IELTS examiner said to me.
Yeah, that's totally fine as well. And same in part 1, you might just not catch what they said, or perhaps you don't know a word. And the good thing about IELTS with an actual person is you can ask them and they don't penalise you for it. You're not going to lose points for that. It's in your best interest. If you didn't really understand, you could just say, could you ask that again? Or I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you mean. Or did you say whatever the word is? And they'll just reword it. They'll say it in another way.
Okay.
Even in part 1, they can give you a little bit of help.
Right.
Without going off script too much.
Okay, that's good to know. What if the examiner interrupts me? What does that mean? Clearly that means something's gone wrong, right?
No, we get this quite a bit. People freak out when the examiner interrupts because you're not expecting it and you might feel like it's rude or that, you've said something wrong. But there's generally 2 reasons why the examiner will interrupt you. One of them is about the timing. So the examiner has certain questions they want to ask you in this short space of time.
Okay.
So if you're going on too long, they might just cut you off because they want to hear you compare something or they want to hear you talk about the future. So it's not like you've said something wrong or they're sick of what you're talking about.
Okay.
They're just trying to get to the next thing. And the other reason, and this is particularly important in part 3, well, only relevant in part 3, if you're talking about yourself, so if I ask you about how do advertisers attract people, and you start telling me, well, I bought an iPhone because I saw an ad, and they might stop you then because part 3 is not about you. You should be talking broadly about the world. You've already talked about you, part 1, part 2.
Okay.
So they might just stop you and redirect the question. But don't panic.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
They're just redirecting the exam.
Okay. Cool. All right. No worries. That's good to know as well.
It's fine.
Am I allowed to and ah?
Yeah, it's fine. It's very normal. It's
normal.
very natural.
Yeah, it's natural.
It becomes a problem when you hesitate between every word like this. And the best way to eliminate that is record yourself.
Yeah.
Or do a practice test with a teacher.
Yeah.
They'll show you. But a normal amount of hesitation is normal.
Okay. Cool.
A normal amount is normal. You know what I mean?
Can I let me ask that. Can I, if I'm going to say, can I correct myself, for example?
Yeah, also fine. Not too much.
Not too much, yes.
Not every sentence. But if you realise, that was the wrong word ending or the wrong verb, fix it up.
All
Why
right.
not?
Okay, good. Fair enough. Now, if it's raining cats and dogs outside and I'm just about to kick the bucket, but there are 2 sides to the one coin, can I use idioms?
Yeah, you can use idioms in IELTS speaking. It's not so much in IELTS writing, but it's part of the criteria, in fact, to use less common and idiomatic language. We would recommend leaning on some phrasal verbs that you're confident with. Unless you're very, very comfortable and confident with those kind of idioms, raining cats and dogs, I probably avoid them. They're not that impressive. They're a little bit overdone.
Cliched.
But a phrasal verb in the right spot.
Yeah,
effective.
Yeah, for example, like if you're talking about advertising, I guess a phrasal verb would be, it picked up my attention. Does that make sense? No, that doesn't make sense. What's a phrasal verb? Anyway, maybe you can write one below for us. Help. If you're talking about advertising, what's a good phrasal verb? There you go. Just deflected that one away from me. Very good. All right. Let's talk about some E2 strategies. I believe you have 3 of them.
Yeah, well, actually, we've got more, but you can check them out on our course, in our IELTS course, or in our live classes. We go through them a lot. So I'm just going to run you through 3 of them.
Just before you do, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button to become a subscriber. But more importantly, get off YouTube and go and check out www.e2language.com, where you can sign up for free and get access to sample questions, some methods lessons, and lots of cool stuff, including free live classes. So it's not all happening here on YouTube. It's over there on the website.
Yes. So we just give you 3 of several here. So first method is, it's a pretty obvious one, but explain your answers. So if I asked you, do you think children today are more badly behaved than kids in the past? You might say, yeah.
Yes, they are. Terrible children. But then I need to elaborate, right?
So tell me how. What do they do now?
Okay,
And tell me why. Why are kids today worse than kids in the past? So stretch that answer out. So keep in mind, no yes or no answers. Of course, you can say yes as a beginning and then go on why, how.
Elaborate.
Yeah.
Just as a rule of thumb, how long should I answer for the part 3 questions?
I think for this, you should watch the examiner's body language. You can usually feel when they're trying to move the conversation along. But yeah, as a general rule, we usually practice in the live classes with about 40 to 50 seconds per answer.
See, that's quite a long time, isn't it? You can't just have a single sentence or even a couple of sentences. It has to be a pretty well thought out response.
Yeah. And it is a bit of a conversation too. So the examiner might pick up on something that you've said. There's a phrasal verb. Pick up on something you said and follow that a little bit more, asking why or how do you mean, or tell me more about that. So it doesn't always mean question, 50-second answer, question, 50-second answer. It can be a little bit more back and forth.
A little bit back and forth.
Yeah.
Good. That makes it easier. Okay. Now, buying time. I was going to make a joke here about bribing the IELTS examiner, which you cannot do. What does buying time mean?
This is when you get asked a really deep question or a big question. Like,
what's the meaning of life?
Yeah, they might ask you, what's the meaning of life? Or what is happiness?
Would they ask you that? No. What's the meaning of life?
I don't think so.
I've got a 3-word answer for you. No, I don't.
But if I ask you, what is the biggest problem in the world right now? It's sort of weird if you answer immediately. The biggest problem in the world right now is it's sort of strange. Like, that's a really difficult question. I know there's some joke videos about how IELTS candidates overuse the expression. That's a difficult question. That's a big question. But it's
natural.
It's natural, yeah. And sometimes that is a difficult question. That is a big question. Rather than leave a silence where you're thinking and the examiner's wondering, are you all right? Did you understand? You can buy time by using hesitation devices. Things like, well, yeah, that's interesting. Or I've never really thought about that. Or let me think about that. I think, so just a little bit of filler, because English speakers hate silence. And in the English exam, silence can give the examiner the impression that you are searching for language. But if you're searching for ideas, that's fine. So you're just letting them know, I'm getting there. Just give me a second.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right.
Time.
That's natural. That sounds good. Consider 2 views. What does this mean?
This is also a strategy. If I ask you, let's say, about your opinion and you're not really sure yet, start telling me what other people think. So does advertising have a negative effect on children? I would start by saying, well, a lot of people say that and they seem to think that, blah, blah, blah. And eventually I'll say, personally, I agree with them. Or personally, I tend to feel that something different.
Yeah. Okay.
So talk about what other people think, versus what I think, or what people thought in the past versus what people think now.
Yep.
So it's just a way of contrasting and stretching out your answer.
Cool. All right. Great. That makes a lot of sense. Shall we practice?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I'm going to choose one of these. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've put together some questions that you guys and our students have sent in from their speaking test. And yeah, it's all very well to talk about part 3, but let's do it. So Jay will ask me a question, I'll ask Jay a question, and we'll save some for you guys as well.
Okay. Do you think the government should care about historical sites?
The government, well, I think that absolutely, yes, the government needs to care about historical sites. If the government didn't pay attention to those places and invest money, things that spring to mind would be like the pyramids in Egypt, for instance. If the government didn't take an interest in that, it falls to the people and to organisations, which do have a role to play. But ultimately, yeah, I think that the government has to protect their history. It's part of their culture. It should be part of their education system as well. And it makes sense to me that they invest heavily in that.
Nice collocation there. Invest heavily. I like that. Cool.
Okay.
Nice work.
Whew. It is stressful. Okay, Jay.
Yes.
Is it important to save water in your country?
Well, it is very important in Australia to save water because we've been in a drought for like 400,000 years apparently. And I believe Australia is one of the driest continents on the planet, if not the driest continent. So I think water saving measures like having a shower for just a minute or two and maybe even just stop showering, I wouldn't say that in the exam, is very important. Should I go on?
No, because I would, as an examiner, I'd probably say, what are some other ways people could save water? So,
right.
Yeah, the examiner's always there to keep.
Let's keep going then. I think people should stop washing their cars. For example, we tend to use a lot of water washing our cars, and it just seems like an absolute waste, and that water just goes straight down the drain. I also think we should be capturing water off our roofs of our houses. There you go. I wouldn't do that in the exam either.
One more.
All right, let's keep going. This is fun. Are social media apps spreading fake news?
Oh. Are social media? Yeah. I think that fake news is being spread by a lot of sources, and social media, yeah, they are definitely contributing to this. Something like Facebook, for instance, has been embroiled in quite a big controversy relating to the US election, where it was discovered that there were stories being shared on that platform that may not have had a basis in reality. And that's just one example of many. I think this is due to the fact that social media platforms, they're not really governed by the rules that a traditional media outlet is. So there's nobody verifying their facts. It doesn't go through an editor. I can post whatever I want. And if it's interesting enough, my friends will share it. And in that way, fake news can be proliferated throughout the world. Proliferated, yes.
And it was a precise use as well. Good. Let's do one more. I want to do one more. I like this.
Show me your best. Let's see.
Not looking. I'll do it seriously this time. No jokes.
All right. Do you think children should be allowed to make their own decisions?
Whoa, that's an interesting question. I think some kids are mature enough to make their own decisions, and that may be at a very young age. Other children, on the other hand, tend to mature a bit later, so perhaps decisions should be made for them. I think the decisions could be made by parents or teachers, but ultimately it depends on what the decision is about. If it's just a trivial thing, like a very small thing, then sure, let the child decide for himself or herself. But if it's a large thing like where they're going to go to school or if they're going to get a job or when they're going to get their license, for example, I think those bigger decisions should be made with another person.
Okay.
That was okay. No jokes. That was great.
Well done.
Cool.
So I'm going to ask one and you guys can write your answer in the comments section. Show us what you've got. See if you can get a phrasal verb in there. Actually, you choose.
All right, here we go. People at home. What types of advertisements are more powerful? The ones on TV or the ones in newspapers? Tick tock, tick tock.
That's a difficult question.
You can pause the video, maybe write a nice comment below. I'll ask the question again just in case you missed it. Huh? What's that, examiner? You didn't hear me? What types of advertisements are more powerful? The ones on TV or the ones in newspapers?
All right. Well, hopefully that showed you it's possible to answer any question.
Yeah, true.
And
cool. And let's show them this so they know where to go.
yeah.
So, guys, if you need any more help with your IELTS test, we've got these radical online courses. It's 100% online test preparation. Just go to e2language.com. You can sign up for free. We deliver live group classes, one-on-one tutorials, speaking and writing feedback. We've got overview lessons, methods lessons, heaps of practice questions, practice tests, and a lot more.
And if you're feeling anxious about your speaking test, it's a really good idea to book a tutorial where you can work one-on-one with Jay or me or one of our IELTS teachers and go through the full test. You can deal with all of your fears.
Yes.
And they can give you feedback as well, what you're doing well and what you can do to improve.
Yeah, that's a great place to feel a bit of anxiety is in a mock speaking tutorial with one of our expert teachers. Because it's just a lot of that anxiety and nervousness is just about preparation and experiencing it for the first time. Once you experience it, then you feel much more confident and you can perform a lot better on test day as well. And the good news is you just have to open up your laptop, book your tutorial. It's pretty easy and our expert teachers are very good, most of whom are ex-IELTS examiners, I believe. So they certainly know what to do and how to coach you to say the right thing. Good. And if you're on YouTube right now, don't forget to subscribe, hit like, leave a comment, including the answer to our fabulous question before, and share this with your friends. Cool bananas.
And that's it from us. We'll see you in class soon.
See you soon.
Bye.